Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I'm going to let the room fill up a bit before I jump into the introduction here. Come on in, make yourself comfortable. We have a big group today, so I know it's going to take a few moments for everybody to make their way in. So welcome. Welcome to our noontime webinar today. The topic is delivering results through coaching culture. My name is Janice McPherson, and I'm the Director of Operations with CPHR Alberta. It's great to have you here today. I want to acknowledge that we're living and working on traditional territories in Alberta of the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries, including the people of Treaty 6, 7, and 8. And if you're joining us from outside Alberta today, I'd invite you to honor the land where you are. Today's webinar is part of our partnership program. CPHR Alberta partners with providers of products and services that are valuable to CPHR Alberta members. Essential Impact has been a partner since 2020, and they offer specialty pricing to our members on their coaching programs. You can see more details about that on our website or contact us for more information, or you'll see information for Essential Impact throughout the webinar as well. We're really pleased to be hosting another webinar with them today. Today's presentation will be a conversation hosted by Ed Temple of Essential Impact. Ed is a certified executive coach from Royal Roads University and holds a PCC credential from the International Coaching Federation. Ed is also a lead facilitator and director of public programs for Essential Impact in Alberta. Ed will be talking to two guests today. They are Supriya James, who is the Senior Vice President and leads the Human Resources function for CWB Financial Group, and Kim Forseille, who is the Assistant Vice President, Learning and Development at CWB Financial Group. I also want to thank Lydia from CPHR Alberta, who's here today as our technical support. We'll be sending you a follow-up email tomorrow that will have the slides from today and a recording of the presentation. Please keep a copy of your email as proof of attendance for your CPD credits if you're a chartered member. And if you're not a member of CPHR Alberta, welcome. It's great to have you here today. I'll put our email address in the chat, and if you're interested in becoming a member, you can send us a note and we can talk about that more. Throughout the webinar today, the Q&A box will be open. Please put your questions there, and the speakers will answer as many as possible throughout the webinar. The chat box will also be open throughout, but it's best to put your questions in Q&A so they don't get missed. And with all of that being said, I'm going to turn the floor over to Ed.
All right. Thank you, Janice. Appreciate that introduction and welcome. Welcome to all of you who are tuning in from across North America and possibly beyond. We're really glad that you're here, and we're really excited to be able to present to you some context for coaching culture, because obviously you are here because you care about coaching and you see that coaching culture is something that's going to bring value to your organization and to you as a leader. One of the things I would add to my intro is one thing I'm very proud of is I'm the current president of the ICF Calgary chapter. And so one of the things I'm really grateful for with this partnership is I appreciate what CPHR does for its members, being involved in my own chapter. And so I'm representing them today as well. I would love to say that I'm the expert on coaching culture, but I'm not. I represent a team, an organization, and some great people at Essential Impact who we would like to say we really are experts in coaching culture. And so I'm not alone. I represent them. I'm going to bring you some things around, some of the things that we've learned over the years. We hope that it'll be valuable to you and your journey and how you're using coaching in your organization, and really facilitate a conversation today that will help you as you look to deliver that within your context and wherever you might be serving. So speaking of team, we have some people here that are helping me today. I want to introduce them to you. One is Jody. Jody is our brand and communications manager, and she's going to be here. There's Jody. Thanks for being here. Along with Angela, who's our curriculum development manager. There's Angela. And they're both going to be in the background supporting you and your learning experience. And so we just want to invite you. You can use the chat. They will be engaged there. They will probably put a couple links in there when I reference something. If you have questions, they're going to be responding to them in real time. We will have some Q&A later, so we're going to ask you to use the question and answer box, and Jody will be fielding those for us. And so they're just there to kind of provide support. And so if you have a question or want to know something, you can do that in the chat box at any time. You don't need to worry about getting my attention. They're there to kind of support us in this journey to really make this a valuable lunch hour for you. As a company, Essential Impact, we have developed the core curriculum of the Royal Roads Executive Coaching Program and have been delivering that for many years. We are very proud of partnering with 6 organizations to win a Prism Award. A Prism Award is what the International Coaching Federation, how they acknowledge really great coaching culture and getting results through coaching culture. So I'm going to talk about that a bit more around the importance of Prism. And that's something as a company that we really care about and have really focused on helping organizations do that. We've done that with Rogers Telecommunications, Joey's Restaurant, Surrey Food Bank, and MLSE, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. All great organizations that we've been able to partner with to help them in their journey towards coaching cultures. Our value around helping you create a coaching culture is around relationship building and coaching you towards that. So we're going to give you a little bit of a framework for what we think is important for that today, but really to help facilitate a conversation with you and kind of help you move forward wherever you might be leading and how you're thinking about that in your organization. One of the things I have to say as a proud Albertan, I'm very proud of the brands and the organizations that we have been working with here in Alberta. We work with the government of Alberta, Medicine Hat Police Services, Trican Well Services, and a number of others. And most importantly, is we've been working with Canadian Western Bank here for a little while, and we're so glad to have Supriya and Kim here to share their story about what's been happening there as they go down their road around a coaching culture. So today we have 3 objectives that we want to share with you around kind of setting the table for this conversation. And the 3 objectives are here. As Janice said, we're going to share all these slides with you afterwards, so don't worry about capturing them. We're only going to put a couple up, but there is a full deck that we'll send out afterwards. We're going to start with creating coaching culture, setting the table around how do we define that. Secondly, we just want to introduce 3 principles that we think are really important to help you deliver the results that you're looking for and what those results might be. And then finally, we want to present those principles through the story of Canadian Western Bank, henceforth as CWB, for those of you who don't know that acronym. So that's enough about us. I want to start with you as well around something brought you here today. You know, you are interested in this, so I just want to ask that question for you around what about coaching culture brought you here today? And maybe you have a sticky notepad that you use, or you want to put in the chat box. I'd really appreciate just seeing from a few of you of what's the question you came with. What brought you here today that you're working on related to coaching culture? So if some of you want to chat, put it in the chat box. I think others here today would appreciate seeing that from you as well, to kind of see what are other organizations challenged with, struggling with, where are they finding some success? Yeah, some great things getting in the chat. So please continue filling that in there. So we're going to start with a definition of coaching culture. And again, there's a lot of great definitions out there. This is not the only one. Just the way we look at it. And we think it captures what a lot of people talk about in regards to coaching culture. So coaching culture, we would say, is that it is an environment in which many to most people use coaching skills or principles as a way to lead, as a way to communicate, as a way to influence, as a way to work with each other. It's a common way that people are using to show up and be present and work together effectively. In addition, we'd say in coaching culture, almost everyone knows within the organization what coaching is. And many people, not necessarily all, but many people, including a lot of the leaders and managers, have training in coaching to some degree. They know coaching methods, they know how to coach, they're able to lead through coaching, and there's a wider acceptance around the value of coaching. That's kind of basically how we define what a coaching culture is. Today, we're talking about delivering results through a coaching culture. And there's a number of components to delivering results through a coaching culture. There's lots of ways of talking about that. And again, what we really like doing with organizations is to support that journey. How do we help you walk that path to getting to the place around the results that you're looking for? And so the ICF Prism Award, which I mentioned earlier, gives a bit of a framework for what a coaching culture looks like and how do you measure success. They talk about 4 different things. So the first one they talk about is impact. How do you measure the effects of coaching? What's the ROI or the ROE of coaching? And there's lots of ways to measure that. That's an important part of the journey. And that's a really important aspect to helping you define what a coaching culture is. The ICF Prism Award has these 4 ways of evaluating it. Impact is one. The second one is strategy. How do you connect coaching into the objectives or the direction of the organization, what you're trying to accomplish? So obviously, it's kind of a no-brainer, but you need to connect it to the strategy of the organization of what you're trying to accomplish. Third, an important aspect of it is standards. The fact that you define coaching and you say, this is what coaching means to us, and there's a bar for what coaching is, and then you develop people and help bring them to a place of here's the bar for coaching, and we're going to develop you to be able to know what coaching is and to deliver it at a very high level. And then fourthly is sustainability. There's a long-term plan for this. How are we going to develop this and cultivate this and create that framework? And we believe that it's really important to coach along that journey because there's lots to learn. And so I want to share with you just 3 principles around that journey and how you move towards it. So envision your organization or department. If you were implementing a coaching culture, what would be different in 2 years? If you had that magic wand and just kind of ran ahead with that, what would look different in 2 years? That's related to how we want to help facilitate around envisioning where it should go. And so the first principle that we're talking about here is the outcomes. What are the potential outcomes that you're looking for? So begin with the end. Secondly is the pilot. We're going to encourage you to pilot, launch it, learn, reevaluate, and adapt. And then finally, learn to tell the story. So let me just talk a little bit more about that before we hear from Kim and Supriya. So the first one, with beginning with the end in mind, like what are the things that you're aiming for that coaching is meant to accomplish in your organization? And a couple examples of this might be this. Maybe you're looking for increased sales. We got to increase sales. That's the thing, that coaching is going to directly impact that. At Rogers, they did it in their telecommunications center, one of the hardest parts of their business, and they saw a direct impact on coaching people towards their goals of client satisfaction going up. Is an immediate change that happened because they started using coaching. Maybe for you, it's about leadership readiness. You're growing as an organization. You don't have enough leaders ready as you're expanding. So you need to get them ready quicker. And that's what coaching is going to impact. Possibly for you, it's increased retention. Or maybe another way of talking about it is around employee engagement, looking for that discretionary effort. Those are 3 of a whole bunch of different potential outcomes. And what we think is important is to kind of brainstorm on the many potential outcomes that there are. And as your key stakeholders and decision makers come together, come to a place where you land on 2, just 2. Begin with the end in mind. Stephen Covey, find those 2 things to say, that's what we're going to aim for over these next couple of years. The second principle we want to talk about here is just the piloting. Find a place to experiment, learn, grow, evaluate, and change. The term that we'd use is skunk works, which some of you might be familiar with that terminology. It comes through from Lockheed Martin, where they created the U-2 bomber and a bunch of other things, some really innovative things. And in business, we use it to describe a group within an organization with a high degree of autonomy and unhampered by bureaucracy, with a task of working on advanced or secret projects. So it's that idea of like testing something over here, letting them do something to see what might grow, to see what sticks, and to see what you can learn from it. And so we just encourage that idea of pilot something, see what happens. And as you pilot it, look to reevaluate. When you see where you're making progress, let's do more of that. Oh, this isn't working like we thought. We thought this was one of the potential outcomes. And when we learned, we realized that's not the outcome. It's something else that we need. And so to go into it really being willing to experiment to see what might happen. And as you learn and as you figure those things out, then it's about adapting. Okay, let's make this change. We think it'll be more effective if we make this change and adjustment. And then thirdly, the third principle is figure out a way to tell the story. Let something grow at a grassroots level and then find a way to tell that story so people within the organization start saying, hey, what's going on over there? I'm hearing some stories of some people that are doing something that sounds really good. I want a bit of that. And Seth Godin talks about that in his book, All marketers are liars, but the principle in that book is about marketing is about storytelling. Become a great storyteller of coaching within your organization. And you can use all sorts of artifacts you already have. It might be a newsletter, it might be your intranet, it might be a monthly blog post or an interview system that you have. There's lots of ways to tell the story. It's just a matter of going, how are we going to share this story so that other people can start to see what's happening and they can start to share that great news with others. So that's just a little bit of the table, and I want to invite Kim and Supriya to come in here. We've set the table around what we're talking about today, and they're going to share their story. And again, we're going to make these slides available to you afterwards, so don't worry about that. Kim and Supriya, welcome. So glad to have you here.
Thanks,
and
Dan.
so as we have you here, Janice already introduced you. I know you pretty well, but I'm curious as to what else is really important for the people listening today to know about you.
Kim, do you want to go first?
So it's interesting. I guess my primary mode of communication with my teenage daughters is TikTok.
I love it. So go ahead, Supriya.
Yeah.
For me, it would be, I think, given that it's the lunch hour, you can bribe me with chocolate and rum, though I promise it's not rum during working hours.
That's a good little secret to know about you. And I have to say for myself, something interesting about me, I love to travel, but what I love about traveling is street food and just like walking out of wherever you're staying and then looking for places where there's lineup of students or cab drivers and going, that's the place to eat. So I'm a street food fun. That's how I like to travel. Well, Kim and Supriya, thanks so much for being here. We're really looking forward to hearing a little bit about you around what we've talked about. And Supriya, I'll start with you. Just help us know a little bit more about how you started your coaching journey.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, Ed. And as I look at, several of the comments in the chat, I remember being in their shoes a couple of years ago. So I'm excited to share this story. About 2 years ago, I was in the midst of what I would call an all-out existential crisis. I was on the cusp of turning 50. And with that came this worry that I would look in the rearview mirror, when I retire, let's say 10, 12 years from now, and would I be happy with what I had spent my time on? And I remember at that time attending a conference where I heard Marshall Goldsmith speak for the first time, and he talked about this concept of purpose. And that really inspired me to sort of go on this quest of the why behind everything that I do, and the what brings real joy to me. Now, I didn't get to indulge in this existential crisis without continuing to earn a living. So in the midst of all of that, we were designing a new set of values for CWB. And so I was part of the team that was working on this, and we designed a bunch of values that reflected who we are today, but also aspirational values. So things like embrace the new was an aspirational value for us. And in my role leading human resources, I needed to start to think about how would we shift our culture from who we are today to sort of live this new value of embracing the new. And so, in the midst of thinking about all of this, one of the great suggestions I had was, reach out and speak to a couple of people and get some thoughts behind this, which is what I did. I also had to factor in that as a business, I'm sure everybody on the call knows this, but the financial services industry is evolving very, very quickly. And so embracing the new also meant that we really needed to shift to become a learning culture as an organization, because we needed to move from I'll tell you what to do, to I'm going to listen, I'm going to ask powerful questions, and I'm going to learn as a part of that process, because otherwise we would not be able to survive in this industry. I promise I'm getting somewhere with this story. One of the conversations that I had was with Marge Bussey. of essential impact. And it was an incredibly powerful conversation because through that discussion, I realized that there was an intersectionality between the work that I needed to do for CWB on our desired culture and our values and my purpose. And I recognized that the thing that gave me most joy in life was the moments when I had the privilege to coach and bring out the best in talent that I had the opportunity to come across in the organization. And I realized that building a coaching culture in CWB would allow us to move from that tell to that ask and become a learning organization. So I decided to start by educating myself on what coaching was all about, what coaching culture was all about, and that was the start of our journey.
Mm. Yeah, thanks for sharing. I mean, a bit of your personal story, and I love the fact that it really represents how coaching is a whole life approach to things. We want people to be successful. We want business to be successful. We want to thrive, but it's also about our people thriving. And that's a great story of how that was both of those coming together for you. Can you share with us a little bit about how your personal journey kind of led into now you leading at CWB around this coaching culture journey?
Mm. Um, so I had an end goal in mind, which is I wanted to reach a stage where every leader in CWB was trained to be a coach, but I recognized, again, through a number of conversations, that I needed to start with just one small step. So my first step was I pitched a business case to my boss to ask for $1,500 to invest in me to be a better leader and a better coach. And part of that business case was basically sharing with her, the dollars I could save the organization in terms of external coaches. Ed, don't get mad at me, but by being an internal coach to the organization. And I managed to get that. And with that, I was able to go and attend Essential Impacts, the 3-day Essentials program. Just a shout out for anybody who's wanting to do this. If you're looking for funding, do look into the provincial grants as well, because those are useful. During the Essentials program, I had the opportunity to actually leverage the input of my fellow learners and gurus like yourself, Ed. You were part of that first program that I attended, to further hone the plan on how would I go about building this coaching culture in CWB. I'll share one moment with you, which I will never forget. There was a young gentleman called McKinsey, and he coached me in the program on all of the things that were holding me back personally from being successful in this venture. And I will never forget it, because McKinsey, all of the wisdom of an 18-year-old, totally outside of the realm of, the professional world, it was an absolute eye-opener. And I remember having a conversation with you about, the power of the new generation actually coaching more seasoned leaders. There was just immense learning in that. So, at this stage, having gone through the program, I realized that I needed a sponsor in CWB to help me on this journey, and that I needed someone whose design capabilities were a lot stronger than my own. I also decided to build a community of a few advocates who had, sort of a strong WIFM, a strong what's in it for them, to be part of this whole process. And I used some of the coaching techniques that I learned, Ed, the powerful questions that I'd learned to actually go out and recruit these people. Kim was first on the list because I knew that she would be an incredible coach herself, but also I needed her advice. I needed her partnership and her design thinking capabilities. And so, I went out to her and talked about the magic of coaching, and I asked her to be part of that journey. But that was the start of the coaching journey for CWB. And when I think back, the hardest thing for me at that stage was to intentionally underplay that this could be just the right thing for CWB, what we were looking for as a business, and instead to allow people to just experience the coach approach. I had never done that before. I was the master of business cases and project plans. I had never let work grow organically so that, we got to a stage that people became so thirsty for this in the organization that that need to spontaneously scale up just happened. So I don't know, did I answer your question?
Beautifully. And I just have to come back to a couple things you said there, because I don't want us to go over it too quickly. Because it speaks volumes of the power of coaching within organizations, the fact that you had such a profound experience with Mackenzie, somebody who's 18 years old, learning coaching. And I remember throwing you guys together into groups because that's part of what we do. And the fact that it was so monumental to me really speaks volumes to how coaching develops capability within people across the organization, and not from leaders down to people who work for them, but in many ways that we can't predict. And that's a great story. I really appreciate you sharing your own journey with that, around that, how that was something that was a catalyst for you. And then the other thing is that your change of approach, which I really appreciate, is that you know what it's like to build a business case and bring down and say, here's our new programs, here's what we're going to do, which is so common. But you were very intentional on saying, this is going to be different. We're going to throw some seeds out and see what grows. We're going to take this grassroots. I'm going to just kind of be quiet about it to see what comes. And I've seen the effect of that, because it's really helped grow something that, that you probably couldn't have imagined from that, with that different approach. And I love that word magic. So I'm interested in Kim's perspective on, Supriya comes back, has this amazing experience. She comes in and says, okay, now we're gonna, let's talk about something new. And she's using a word like magic. So Kim, how do you respond? And tell us a story of how you piloted it at CWB.
Yeah, so Supriya, I don't know if you remember the look on my face when you came back and started talking about this transformative experience called coaching. And I remember you using the word magic, and the logical sense in myself was like, what do you mean magic? Isn't this just another program that you would like to see rolled out? So at the time, honestly, I didn't totally understand what the opportunity or capacity for this was until I experienced coaching myself. And very similar to Supriya, life-altering, life-changing for certain. And I wanted everyone in my whole world to experience this opportunity to get unlocked, to be empowered, to feel closer to becoming their very best selves. So after drinking this Kool-Aid, I saw so many opportunities and possibilities. I couldn't wait to bring it in. So in 2019, we worked with Essential Impact to design our very first in-house certification program for coaches. And in this design phase, we had three major focuses. The first one was we were very purposeful about who we chose to attend. We wanted them to be credible, impactful leaders at CWB who also were great influencers. The second was we presented this opportunity as a certification, which was an opportunity in itself, but a requirement. And I think that also had some weight. And the third was that in appreciation for the investment of CWB in our leaders, you had to commit to taking on coachees in order to have this opportunity. So the pilot program was presented as career coaching. And this gave us a fantastic opportunity to address a need in the organization to support career development, which we'd heard about in our engagements survey, as well as launch coaching. So the first offering was a 6-month engagement with 25 coaches and just over 110 participants. So really great pilot.
Thank you for sharing that, Kim. And I'm just curious as to, you piloted one way, so you thought you're going to start it off. Can you share with us a little bit about, here's what we tried, and then here's what we learned through that trying, and then how you adapted it to then kind of move forward?
Oh, we learned so much, still learning, I think. Supriya had mentioned the grow organically. That was a challenge for both her and I, to just not overthink this, not overstructure or overprogram, to just trust in the process, trust in the experience. We've continually asked for feedback throughout our whole journey, both to the coaches and to the coachees. And so I think our first set of learnings is that we did many things right. First of all, the incredible partnership with Essential Impact. And the whole Essential Impact team just brings a wealth of experience and a very supportive approach, even just using the coach approach with us during the design phase, asking us, what is it you want to accomplish? Bringing forward ideas and learnings from other organizations, empowering us to build this with our business. So it has never felt like we're being sold products or services. So that partnership has been key. I'd say in addition to that external partnership with Essential Impact, we've had a really strong internal partnership. We mentioned we've selected and involved the right people, leaders from across the business. They have helped influence our growth and development in this. Another learning has been the real importance of coaching, of the ongoing coach practice and peer support. So we have a community of practice that runs every month. We have triads that work together to practice coaching, and we've leveraged the mentor coaching opportunity. So that has created this wonderful connection with a group of coaches. I'd say we've also learned the value of embedding this coaching journey with our culture and our values, and making sure that those mesh together. On the improvement side, Ed, we've got some significant learnings there as well too. Probably not dissimilar than most people's, employees on the call, is we have employees who want to be told what to do. Maybe that's because they're used to it and they just want to be directed. So we've learned we have to invest time up front in preparing and educating the coachee for this experience, that the coachee's responsibility is to guide, listen, ask great questions, not to give advice and not to direct. And that's been a challenge for us. We've also learned that this is not just for leaders, that everyone has the ability to benefit significantly from coaching, whether it's peers or individual contributors, family members. Like, it just has such a breadth of opportunity. And I'd say the last learning that we're still working through is how to find ways to share this story of success with concrete data, that the metrics and analytics that really light people up in terms of showing that ROI that you talked about earlier. Lots of learning, still learning.
Yeah. Well, and thanks for sharing that. I think just for our listeners as well, is that what I'm hearing in that is that there was this vision for what coaching can do. And it came and it hit with the reality of where people are actually at, and the fact that, okay, you have this idea of what coaching should do, but I actually want this. So there's this recalibration of like, okay, we had this wonderful vision. Now it's hitting the reality. How do we adjust? How do we start to prepare people for what they should expect out of coaching? How do we help onboard them to what it might do for them so that the values are aligned? And then I hear that journey around, and how are we going to measure this to make sure that we can tell the story of the impact that it's having? And that's where I look back to having a clear potential outcomes you're looking for. This is what we're aiming for, not because that'll be the right thing, but doing the hard work around, you have to define, these are the outcomes that we want out of coaching, and then realize that, and that might not be where you are in 6 months. You might have to redefine those outcomes. As you've been kind of moving down this path, Kim, can you help us understand just your experience around how you are trying to tell the story within the organization so that it's growing in a way that's kind of catching? It's catching fire. It's kind of growing and it's building momentum that is beyond what you were trying to do.
Yeah, so maybe I'm being a little hard on us when I say, we're not great at this. We're not great at telling success stories. We want to be better at that. We're working our way through that. Part of the reason why we're here today and sharing our story. We have dozens and dozens of those hair standing up on your arm, goosebump, lump in the throat type of stories. I just got one yesterday that I forwarded to Supriya that had us both, pretty emotional, and it was all around the impact of coaching. So we have taken an organic approach. This is included with our storytelling. We want to be more purposeful about that. The storytelling at this point has been primarily through word of mouth and testimonials that we're sharing kind of internally, but not formally. We have so many stories of employees coming forward, expressing gratitude and appreciation for the program, for their coach. Several people crediting coaching for career progression, for stronger relationships, for breakthrough communication, conflict resolution, improved self-esteem and confidence. Like it just covers the gamut of every positive impact you could ever hope to have. So we do have a great story to tell, and we just need to find a way to do it more broadly.
Yeah, and that's great. Thank you for sharing just a little bit of what's going on for you guys and how you share that story. In a minute, for everybody listening, we're going to come to your questions. So if you have some questions, feel free to use the Q&A. Jody and Angela are watching that. They will bring some of these questions up. And so we'll do our best to field as many of those as possible. And you could direct those questions to whoever. We will figure out how to answer those. Supriya, if I can come back to you and just help us share a little bit about, from your perspective, why is this important to you and CWB?
So I'm guessing I can't answer with one word and just say magic.
Sure. And now help us understand magic.
I would say 3 reasons. The first one is, when I think of conversations that I've had with our board members and with our executive team and senior leadership team in the organization, there's an absolute agreement that our investment in coaching has been one of the best investments that CWB has made in the culture of our organization, in the employee experience that we're offering to our employees. There are stats that speak to this. We now have an internal cohort of 48 certified coaches. We're looking to double that this year, including Kim and I are working on thinking about how we can bring inclusion and diversity and really look for the intersectionality between that and our coaching approach. We've had about 300 plus employees be coached right across the organization, people who are early career to people who are very seasoned leaders. We've had a 94% satisfaction rate in and amongst the coaches and the coachees around the actual coaching engagement. And we've had a 6% increase in our trust index scores in the midst of this pandemic. We've had the opportunity in the last year, and this is the part that I find very humbling. In the midst of some of the toughest stuff that we've had to deal with as an organization, we've been recognized nationally as one of the top 50 great places to work, as a most admired corporate culture. And so, the investment, because as bankers, we always think of, return on investment. The investment dollar to dollar that we've made has really paid out for us in terms of, who we are as an organization, attraction of talent, the ease with which we're able to retain people, the number of people who've been coached who have actually moved up and moved laterally in their careers. So there's been a tremendous return. The second is our business has recognized the power of coaching and has introduced the coach approach to our selling methodology with clients. So for a business development team member, when they actually approach a client to have a conversation, they use a coach approach now. It's formulaic in part of what we have designed to sell in the business. Even more, I think, important for definitely Kim and me and for the leadership team has been that this foundation that we have built, this magic, has really helped us to leverage opportunities in the midst of the pandemic that will help us come out of the pandemic, accelerating our growth. We've always prided ourselves, Ed, as being an organization that punches above our weight class. And this investment that we've made will help us to continue to do that. Outside of the fact that offering coaching in the midst of the pandemic has helped a number of our employees design how they would navigate their lives through this pandemic, how they would navigate their careers, where they want to take their careers coming out of it. And so it has proved very valuable in the midst of what we have gone through. We're still on a learning journey as an organization. We have a long way to go, but we pick up opportunities a lot quicker. We just did a massive acquisition of a wealth management organization. And as I look at the leader for that organization is a certified coach. And, he talks about the fact that coaching has helped him in going through that massive acquisition. And so we've, through all of this, really allowed people to bring their whole selves to work. But I'll close on a third point, which is personal. And that is, I have really found that coaching has helped me become a much better leader, a much better wife in the midst of this pandemic, a better daughter. I've had to navigate my parents living at the age of 80 on their own in India, and I was able to ask them how I could support them rather than tell them what I wanted them to do. Just being a better human being from learning the skills that I've been able to pick up. I'll share this, my team's engagement results went up by 7% as a result of many of my leaders taking a coach approach to leadership. So that has been a big deal. I've often said this to Kim, I kick myself for not having done this sooner or earlier on in my life. But I am so thankful for the opportunity because I get to pursue my passion while simultaneously, driving our strategy at work. And I've never been more energized in my life. Quite honestly, I know with confidence today, if I go back to what we started with, that when the day comes for me to retire, I will be happy with what I see in the rearview mirror. And also, and I'm hoping some of the people on this call will relate to this, I'm also excited about what I will see in the front view mirror, because coaching gives me a life skill that I'll be able to continue to use in many facets, whether it's in my not-for-profit work going forward.
Oh, wow. Thanks so much for sharing just a bit of, the impact that's had on you. I love the fact that you're more energized than you've ever been. This is great to hear. I do want to hear from you, Kim, as well. And just so you know, we're going to to take a couple questions here in a minute from Jody's has been fielding those. But Kim, what would you add to that for yourself?
Yeah, so many nods when Supriya was talking, because I just agree with all of that. But if I was to just, simplify it into something packaged for people that are looking to take away one or two nuggets, this has taken the pressure off of me as a leader, as a team member, as a parent, as a wife, because I don't have to have the answers anymore, because I don't have them. I don't have all of the answers. And so if you just ask a question that starts with what or how, and just let that conversation evolve, it is unbelievably powerful to have someone go watch their wheels turning through this powerful questioning, and you being an active listener and not saying any advice or giving any direction.
Yeah, and I appreciate you use the word, I'm not sure if you intend or not, but the word evolve, because that reminds us of our fifth principle about coaching is about skills and knowing how to coach and doing those things really well. And it's about who you are as a leader and as a coach and how you show up. And so it is this whole life thing. And Supriya, you said it really well, is that yes, it impacts our lives in a positive way, but there's these results that happen as well. it's not at the cost of delivering great results for the organization. They are aligned. And when they're aligned, the discretionary effort and the engagement of our people is we want them to thrive. And part of that is organizational thriving, and also for you to thrive in your life as well. Thank you for sharing some of that. We're going to take some questions. And just so you know, I know there's a lot of things being said in the chat that I go, oh, I'd like to touch on that. I'd like to touch on that, knowing we don't have the time. So it doesn't mean we can't come back. I'd encourage you to overwhelm Janice's email box about what you want to hear more of, and we can talk to her about what else we can bring. But Jody, do you have a question that a few people have been asking that you think would be helpful for Kim or Supriya to be able to respond to?
Oh my goodness. We have so many questions, and I'm just so excited for you. So Kim and Supriya, one of the questions we had was, I haven't experienced a coaching culture in my organization, and I'm wondering what it looks like. Does it rely only on leaders?
Wow.
Kim, you want me to take a stab first?
Go ahead, sure.
Yeah. Fantastic question. I will keep it as simple as a coaching culture basically changes the nature of conversations in the organization. And it doesn't matter who that conversation is happening between. I have seen people who are early career being able to have a powerful question moment with a senior leader that has caused them to stop and think differently. I've seen, our executive team ask questions of each other when they are talking about strategy that has come from the training that they have received as coaches. So, if I was to describe what that coaching culture feels like, it feels like a culture of, powerful questions, active listening, recognizing that opportunities come from different places in the organization, and just a better quality of conversation. Kim, what did I miss?
Yeah, no, I think that's bang on. It's the quality of the conversation. It's this element of vulnerability as well too. I've seen a shift where people are recognizing they don't have the answers, and they're more collaborative.
Absolutely.
In how they approach challenges, that they're not looking to the leader or the owner and saying it's your job. It's our job.
Yeah, you just triggered one more thought, and this is you guys are witnessing how conversations go typically now between Kim and myself. But one more thought is a coaching culture allows people to bring their whole selves to work. So the power of the conversation is no longer just sort of tactical. What do we need to get done? How are we going to get it done? But it is really about what's holding you back. How are you feeling about this? And it just has allowed our inclusion and diversity approach to really thrive as well.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I'm gonna save my comments. I am gonna come back because I want to answer some of these questions as well. But Jody and I are gonna we'll follow up together to just create a Q&A for myself answering these questions as well, because we have you here. I'm gonna do that with Jody in a couple days, and we'll send it out to anybody who's here who's given us permission to email you. We will create an interview style like this as a follow-up to answer more of these questions from my perspective, or from Essential Impact's perspective in a couple days. But Jody, let's ask Kim and Supriya another question. And if you haven't given us permission, just email info@essentialimpact.com if you want that 1 hour video, which we'll create in response to this event, because I know there's too many questions to answer.
Perfect. So I just dropped the email address into the chat for anybody who's looking for it. Okay, so our next question is, what are the action steps to get boots on the ground for everyone in the organization?
So maybe I'll take that one. We've got multiple approaches. We started off, I shared with you the pilot program that had a platform, and the platform was career development. So that was the first thing, is kind of finding a spot to put it that was small and manageable, but still would have an impact. As I talked about the 2021 plans, I would say that's expanding on three major fronts. One is we are expanding the number of coaches through the workshops, which will allow us to also expand coaching past the career umbrella and encompass anything: professional development, business coaching, performance coaching. The second area is we're offering a Leader as Coach program, which is a very condensed version of the coaching program. It'll be 3-4 hours, and it will allow all of our leaders in the organization to experience the model, the coaching model. And then the third area is what we're calling peer coaching circles. And this is very basic, where we give our individual contributors, basically anybody who wants to participate, a little bit of information, like a short video and some basic instructions on the coaching practice. And they do a peer coaching circle on a challenge that they are facing, and they get to practice that with one another.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I'll just build on one thing, which is, for any of you out there who are looking to start this journey, firstly, let us know if we can help you. There were a couple of organizations that helped us, and so we'd be happy to support. But the only thing I would say is the journey is going to be yours, and it's going to be different. And just start small. Start with one step. So boot on the ground, and then go forward.
I like that, one boot on the ground. That's where you start. One of the great things about that story, Kim, is that out of your first cohort of people, of like 24 people who got trained, you said, how many of you would like to coach young leaders on their career? This is not part of your job. This is above and beyond. It's just you're going to offer yourself as a coach to people elsewhere in the organization. So it's just extra work. And every single person put their hand up and said, I would like to do that. And out of that came that story of, wait a second, what's going on? How come you got a coach? I want to coach. And I know in the end, you ended up getting more requests than you could fulfill, but that was part of the building momentum of people noticing, wait, somebody's getting something that I want. And it was all discretionary effort that it was built on. That's a great story.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The one quick thing I wanted to add about that, because I saw several questions in there about the matching. So one of the things we were nervous about was that the matching would take on a form of a mentorship. And we wanted to be very purposeful to say this is not a mentor. So the matching happened in opposite business areas. So if you were in the commercial banking area, you were matched with someone with IT. If you were in, retail banking, you were matched with someone in the marketing department. So we were very purposeful to say this is not a mentor, this is a coach.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. The great question, and to give that details. Jody, is there another question that we can answer?
Yes, of course there is. There's so many. And it's interesting because I was just going to say, Kim, we had a lot of questions about what the difference is between coaching, mentoring, and training. So I feel like that's a really natural segue for us.
Yeah, and Ed can probably answer this really well, but I'll tell you, this is a huge question that repeatedly comes up in the organization that we're always answering. So we've been very deliberate with our explanation. So for example, everybody receiving coaching attends an orientation, 30-minute orientation, where we explain the coaching spectrum, the differences, what to expect. And they also get a bit of a workbook. Like a guide that says, this is what your coach will do. This is what your coach will not do.
And adding into that, performance management is also part of that spectrum. We get a lot of questions around, well, but I coach all the time anyway. I'm doing that with my team that reports into me. And so it's been really useful to talk about that. We've also done a lot of support for our coaches, because this is new for them. This is a new culture. And so, Kim has created sort of support groups for our coaches. And we've also used Essential Impact to help them continuously sort of practice their coaching skills in cohorts.
Yeah, and I know that's a lot of what you're learning and developing is how do you manage this? How do you administrate this? Like there's lots to be, and I wish there's here's the app to fix all that. There's not, but that's kind of the journey of now you've created a problem because there's such an upswell. There's so much desire and people wanting it that now you have to figure out how to do it. And again, you're figuring that out incrementally. Right?
Yeah. And that struck two thoughts for me. One is, Many people might wonder, all organizations are swamped at the moment.
Mm.
There is just so much going on in the world. One of the biggest realizations that we've had is with coaching, both coaches and coachees just make the time.
Mm.
There is never a hesitance to say, I'm sorry, but I don't have the time to do this. It is just, so magic is actually part of the process. But the second is, we have now really started to talk about how do we make sure that our design sort of sustains itself increasingly. That it does not need as much of hand-holding from, let's say, Kim or myself, that it continues to grow organically on its own.
Right on. And I want to mention, thank you, Kim. We're going to take one more question. We'll be done at 1 minute to the top of the hour. Janice will close us out. I do want to say, for those who are CPHR members, like Janice said earlier, with this partnership, you do have access to training from Essential Impact with a discount for members, and it is eligible for your credits for CPHR. And we're happy to have a conversation around how do we support you on a coaching journey around your coaching culture. So even as just a connect and talk about what's happening for you, we at Essential Impact, the team, is always available for that. And that's not because we charge you for it. We don't. We're just happy to have that conversation and see where it goes and just kind of support you in that next step. Jody and I will figure out how to answer these questions as a follow-up. And also we'll be listening to the feedback from this, from the survey, and Janice, to kind of see what our members, because I know there was a very good turnout for this. What do you want to hear more of? How can we bring more of that? So we will be talking about that. Jody, what's another question?
All right, let's end with a good one. What were some measurable return on investment that you saw through coaching?
So Kim, I'll take a stab at that, and then I think
I've got a couple numbers, I know.
Yeah. So for me, one of the biggest indicators is always when I pitch my new budget for the year. So you can imagine that in the midst of a pandemic, I'm guessing many of you are in the thick of, really making sure that your budgets are streamlined. Based on the results that we've had, so whether it is through how we have surveyed people based on our analysis of, how many people out of our cohort have actually seen changes in their careers as a result of these conversations, we have had absolutely no problem in getting the dollars to invest in continuing to grow this program. So that has been a big indicator. In terms of return on investment, we have this whole play between, and I saw a couple of questions between external coaches and internal coaches. We've been able to keep that mix going. And we have seen return on investment in terms of having a larger number of people now have access to internal coaches in the organization, which has proven extremely valuable. So we're able to put dollars and cents to that. So those are the ones that come to my mind. Kim, I don't know if you wanted to add on anything.
Yeah, I just, if I could measure, and I haven't figured out how to do this, if I could measure the number of people that have had a significant change of perspective, where they thought one way and are now thinking a different way, which of course has all kinds of benefits. And this is the area that we still have work to do, which how do you actually ask the right questions to get those right metrics?
Yeah, wow. Well, thanks so much, Kim and Supriya, for coming and sharing a little bit of your story of what's going on, just your personal story, but also your story at CWB. I appreciate you offering yourself, to support other people in organizations who are working out this kind of stuff. We will follow up with more Q&A response. Again, to those who've given us permission, which I think is about half of the people who registered. If you do want that, just send us an email and say, I want that video. That's all we'll contact you with. And otherwise, I'll invite Janice in. But Kim and Supriya, thank you so much. Really appreciate the value that you brought to sharing your story.
Thank you. It's been fantastic being here. Thanks, Ed. Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much, Ed and Kim and Supriya. What a action-packed hour, not only in your conversation, but in the chat and the Q&A box, and lots of interest and ideas and excitement. So thank you all so much for your time today and sharing your experiences. And thanks to everybody who joined us on the webinar. We had lots of attendees here with lots of great conversation, and we look forward to more opportunities in the future through our partnership with Essential Impact to bring you more coaching content. So thanks so much. Have a great rest of the week, and we will see you again soon.